Several years ago, I remember a talk at church during which the speaker showed a picture of a dusty mountain with a steep valley. He described how this was likely to be a picture of what King David was referring to when he wrote the 23rd Psalm. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. David would have potentially walked in such a valley as a shepherd boy, tending his sheep, protecting them, leading them. Or maybe he was referring to the days when he was running from Saul and the shadow of death seemed to follow wherever he went. Even though he knew he was anointed by Samuel for a purpose, it would still have been easy to fear the enemy. David, however, is able to say, I will fear no evil. How is he able to say that? Well, I was really impacted by the visual representation of the valley of the shadow of death, because at that time, and since then, it has felt as if my life has been one of walking through that valley. At that point, my husband Mark had been living with a terminal diagnosis of motor neurone disease. We were aware the likelihood was he would have no more than 5 years before the illness would cause his body to completely give up. Talk about living with the shadow of death over our lives. There is a man walking along the sheer edge on the picture, which shows both the magnitude of the rock, but also how easy it would be to slip and fall from the precipice. Sometimes the reality of life leaves us feeling like this is us, and that the slightest move could leave us to crash and burn. The heaviness of what my husband and I were going through could so easily have left us feeling that way. However, Psalm 40 verse 2 says, He set my feet upon a rock and gave me a firm place to stand. As I learned to be still and feel the assurance of my feet upon the rock, like David, I have realised I have nothing to fear. In the stillness of worship, I find the peace to declare, it is well with my soul. In the third verse of the hymn, Great is Thy Faithfulness, it says, strength for today and bright hope for tomorrow. There's a reason we can be still before the Lord and fear no evil like David. It is because the Lord has given us all that we need for today, and He's promised to do the same again tomorrow and every day until He takes us home. That's why in His word the Lord tells us over and over, do not worry, do not be afraid. There is nothing that can separate us from the love of God. David goes on to say, your rod and your staff, they comfort me. Both carry so much significance. The rod, a symbol of authority, sometimes discipline, but mostly protection from oncoming danger. And the staff, a symbol of comfort, compassion, kindness, used to gently steer, rescue, draw into relationship. Wherever we find ourselves on this journey of life, we have nothing to fear. In Exodus 14 verse 14 it says, the Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still. That is why in times of danger and distress, we can join with David in saying that his rod and his staff comfort us. He is fighting for us as the Good Shepherd. We have only to be still. My husband was called home almost exactly 5 years ago now, having lived with his illness for 5 years before that, which means for a decade, I feel I've lived in the valley of the shadow of death. However, I can honestly say that in the midst of the obvious pain that has brought, it has also been my joy to discover how safe and secure I am, being still in the Lord's presence, hidden under the shadow of His wing.